You're a righteous fiend, aren't you? Apparently I am.
Amidst all the twists and turns present in the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver series, none is so shocking and labyrinthine as the truth we discover about our protagonist, Raziel. As a Sarafan priest, born in Nosgoth's early history, Raziel was a cruel man, driven by a sanctimonious ambition to rid the world of vampires. He quickly rose through the ranks of the Sacred Order to become Head Inquisitor, cementing his place as one of the faction's most elite warrior priests, with seniority over his fellow commanders and brothers Turel, Duma, Rahab, Zephon, and Malchiah. Belonging to the Sarafan Order meant Raziel was indoctrinated to be devoutly loyal to the Circle of Nine. The Sarafan's steadfast beliefs that their crusade was a righteous one ultimately left Raziel and his brothers unenlightened and susceptible to manipulation, a flaw Raziel would carry on throughout his long life as a vampire and wraith. Following his death, Raziel was buried in a sarcophagus in the tomb of the Sarafan, alongside his brothers, where he would lay undisturbed for the next millennium until his crypt was raided by Kain. Breathing portions of his life force into the corpses, Kain draws Raziel's soul back into his carcass, raising the Sarafan as fledgling vampires to serve as his lieutenants. Too long dead to remember his roots, Raziel ironically served Kain as the very thing he so detested, going as far as to raise a vampire clan of his own, and partaking in the rise of his lord's parasitic empire. Free from the fanatical teachings of the Sarafan, Raziel becomes genuinely upstanding and principled. As time passed, however, Raziel seemingly commits blasphemy by sprouting wings and surpassing Kain. Seeing this as an act of transgression, Kain sentences Raziel to a second death by tearing off his wings and ordering Raziel's brothers to throw him into the lake of the dead. And they do so without hesitation.
Cast him in.
Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred of the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell.
Raziel's appearance drastically changes due to his execution and resurrection. The water in the abyss burns like acid, scorching his skin light blue. His muscles and bones are left exposed. His jaw is torn completely off, leaving only his upper fangs, which causes him to hide his hideous disfigurement beneath a piece of cloth that acts as a sort of balaclava, and his eyes, now devoid of pupils, glow white. As a wraith, Raziel is portrayed as a moral character, with a strong inherent sense of justice and nobility. Unfortunately, he often finds himself in situations where he ends up doing the wrong thing for the right reason. Much to his chagrin, he becomes both a willing and unwilling pawn of those around him, who seek to use Raziel to further their own ends. In the abyss, he falls into the lair of an entity claiming to be God. This elder god declares that Raziel is indebted to him, as he apparently spared the fallen vampire from his torment. He tasks Raziel with hunting down and destroying Kain and his kin. Thus, Raziel has exchanged one master for another. In the first Soul Reaver game, Raziel contemplates the hypocrisy of the cruel system of the vampires, which sentenced him to an eternity of suffering. His feelings of outrage escalate after learning of his former life as a Sarafan priest. His motivation for revenge dictates his actions right up until the moment in the second game when he meets Kain during the corruption of the Pillars, and his knowledge is challenged. A seed of doubt is planted in Raziel's mind, causing him to take a pragmatic approach to his judgment rather than making rash, emotional decisions. Raziel gradually develops on an intellectual level, seeking proof and reason on which to base his decisions. It is this development that shapes his character, leading to one of the most amazing sequences I've had the pleasure to witness in fantasy fiction. Essentially, Raziel's views change when faced with evidence of the Sarafan brutality and ignorance on the part of his so-called noble and self-righteous human self. Watching in horror as the Sarafan rip out the heart of his mentor, Janos Audrin, Raziel hunts them down and slaughters each of his brothers in turn. It is a deeply satisfying moment, made all the more enjoyable as Raziel muses on the fact that it was him all along who delivered the Sarafan's bodies to Kain, to be resurrected in the first place.
This all seems so elegantly choreographed. Exhilarated by the Reaver, I was drunk with revelations. I could finally appreciate the delicious irony of Kain's blasphemous private joke, and I reveled as I colluded with him across the centuries. For it was I who put these bastards in their tomb, thus providing the corpses for Kain to raise as his vampire sons a millennium from now.
Notice the Ouroboros in the room where Raziel faces off against himself. The ancient symbol depicting the head of a serpent devouring its own tail. Appropriate given the circumstances. The Ouroboros is often interpreted as a symbol for eternity, one which embodies a never-ending cycle of life, death, and rebirth. By renouncing all that he ever was as a mortal, Raziel has effectively triggered the course of events that would lead him down the path to becoming a vampire, then wraith, and eventually bringing his history full circle. In a way, he has created and destroyed himself. Within the Legacy of Kain mythos, one should not speak about Raziel without also discussing the Soul Reaver weapon, a legendary sword which has appeared in every title in the series.
The Soul Reaver, Kain's ancient blade, older than any of us and 1,000 times more deadly. The legends claimed that the blade was possessed and thrived by devouring the souls of its victims. For all our bravado, we knew what it meant when Kain drew the Soul Reaver in anger. It meant you were dead.
To this day, I am still amazed by the twist at the end of Soul Reaver 2. The huge reveal that this entire time, the soul-consuming entity trapped in the Reaver blade was and always had been Raziel's future spirit, is shocking as it is tragic. The connection between Raziel and the blade was alluded to many times over the course of the games leading up to the twist. When Kain first discovers the blade, he deems it his kindred, thoroughly unaware just how true that remark would turn out to be. After Raziel's resurrection, the Elder God instructs him to become his Soul Reaver, his Angel of Death. Both the blade and Raziel are soul-stealing entities, and most significantly, the blade shatters when Kain tries to strike Raziel down, because the Reaver could not devour its own soul. All these clues are sprinkled in masterfully by the writers, so that when the twist is finally revealed, it hits you like a shower of bricks raining down. For Raziel, his journey has been one fraught with deception and betrayal. From being a character motivated purely by vengeance, to slowly morphing into one who seeks knowledge and truth, Raziel garners the audience's respect as a tragic hero. Even in the face of hopelessness, he moves forward to try to find a way out of the terrible fate destiny has in store for him. His journey exemplifies that fascinating human interplay between ignorance and intellect, between emotion and logic. It teaches us a crucial life lesson, that reason, not passion, should guide our actions. Otherwise we risk deluding ourselves beneath the weight of intense sentiment. Aristotle once said that anyone can be angry. That is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. Raziel is the embodiment of free will. His final choice to sacrifice himself for the benefit of Kain and redeem the world was not an instinctive act of kindness, but a rational decision, founded on empirical reasoning. He knew what he had to do. It is a tragic but fitting end to his story arc. That brings this character study to a close. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and for more Legacy of Kain lore, subscribe. Farewell.